Rosie Mangiarotti is the founder of Perkies, which makes innovative undergarments for women, including sticky bras with replaceable adhesives, along with perky nips, which is actually now available at Urban Outfitters. So, Rosie, thanks so much for taking the time today.
Of course. Thank you for inviting me on to the podcast. I'm honored.
Could you tell us about Perkies? Like, what do y'all do?
Yes.
What are y'all about?
The initial premise behind Perkies was to create a better stick-on bra. And for those listening who don't know what a sticky bra is, it's a backless and strapless bra that sticks directly to a woman's breasts. And the huge problem with current sticky bras is that after you wear them a few times, they begin to lose adhesion and they get dirty and gross. But the only real issue is with the adhesive. So Perkies creates sticky bras with layered and replaceable adhesives. So instead of buying a whole new bra, you could just buy the replacement packs. Since working on it, we've launched Perkies Petals, which are reusable nipple covers. And then more recently, we've launched Perkies Nips, nipple enhancers, which kind of play into the pop culture trend of free the nip. And, if you walk around, a lot of women are embracing the free the nip trend. But they're also a great product for breast cancer survivors or previvors who no longer have nipples post mastectomy.
I love how you've been able to expand your product lines, just see you change with just discovering different people's needs. So starting with the reusable sticky bra, how did you go from having the idea until having the first reusable sticky bra in your hands? Like, did you have any manufacturing connections before? I wouldn't know where to begin.
Yes, I didn't know either. And I give a lot of credit to Brown. So I actually came up with the idea back in high school and I mentioned it to my friend Gab, and she logged it on her idea list because I turned to her once and I was like, they need to create sticky bras with replaceable adhesives. Like, I think we were on vacation and my sticky bra was totally sweating off. And fast forward 5 years later, I'm in Danny Warshay's intention class at Brown. And part of that class was creating a business plan off of an idea that solves a customer pain point. So with my team of 5 classmates, we brainstormed ideas and I reached out to Gab and I was like, I know some of those ideas on your list are mine. And she's like, the only one I remember is the sticky bra idea. And thankfully, most of my team of classmates were women. And all of the women in the group were like, duh, that's such a no-brainer. Let's do it.
Yeah.
It's so tangible. It's easy to wrap your head around.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, worked on it through Danny Warshay's class, and that kind of gave me confidence in the idea. And then it also gave me I clearly was very passionate about it. I remember after that semester, throughout the summer, people asked me how my year was, and I was just like glowing, talking about this sticky bra idea and this sticky bra project. And then going into senior year, that's when Brown started putting a lot of money into their Nelson Center for Entrepreneurship. And Brown would tap on me to pitch at competitions and to apply to specific things, including B-Lab, where we met. And, from there, I kind of decided to take it on full time. And someone spoke at Brown once, I think I was a senior, and he said, when you are young, this is the time to start a company. Don't wait till you have kids. Don't wait until you have a mortgage to pay off. Like, do it when you're young, because when you fail, you only fail so far, where when you do it when you're older, you're falling a lot further.
Yeah.
And you will fail, or throughout the process, you'll fail. Hopefully it's nothing crazy, but he really struck a chord with me. And then thankfully I have a great relationship with both of my parents, and they had an extra bedroom in their house, and I was able to move home with them right after our 8-week summer accelerator program together. And I was able to build this, and it was no easy feat. There are no public bra pad manufacturers in the US, so I had to go overseas. And then the complexities of creating a sticky bra with replaceable adhesives, it kind of puts me into 2 different products, the bra and the bra pad, and then the adhesives. And the process of creating both of those are completely separate. So it was a matter of finding a bra pad manufacturer overseas and then figuring out how to make this layered adhesive, medical grade, reusable, and the back had to be acrylic and pull tabs. And oh my God, that process, wouldn't wish that upon anyone. But it was great because during that 3-year product development process, I was able to build out the Perkies brand. And the initial name for Perkies, which, Ryan, do you remember the original name?
I actually don't. What? Your branding worked on me.
There's a reason why you don't remember it. It was Reliabra.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Brutal name. It kind of connotates to like an old woman, with a reliable bra, where Perkies is way more young and contemporary. So anyway, changed the name to Perkies, was able to get the domain and trademark the name Perkies and really build out our branding so that when we launched, we kind of had this strong, identifiable brand foundation, which has since allowed me to expand into different products. And again, with that same brand identity, I'm a big silver linings type of girl, but I do look at those 3 years as essential in brand building. And not to mention, I also treated it like I was in business school and I talked to every single person who could give me advice, whether it was on fundraising or marketing or brand building or developing a website and different marketing channels and selling to Amazon and Facebook marketing. Everything under the sun, whether it was patent attorneys or accountants, learned. And again, that's all served me very well. So once I was ready to launch, I also had that foundation of knowledge, which I'm still working on and still learning every day. But it was nice kind of launching with that.
It took you 3 years, and was it challenging to get through that and push through and keep the dream alive? Like, I have a lot of respect for you. This is a thread for many founders to like grind through. And obviously those 3 years, you said you were growing the branding and networking and really absorbing and learning everything that you could. But how did you keep yourself motivated and feeling like you were making progress during that time of product development?
Well, I'd first like to preface this by saying I was very lucky to be living with my parents. Like, I wouldn't be able to do this if I had to pay for rent. And yes, on the side, I would babysit and tutor and, do those odd jobs. But I am very fortunate. So I was able to, stay afloat by living with them. And then also
definitely.
They live Long Island. So I was able to maintain a social life and was with my friends every week in New York City. And that's what kept me going. My friends, they were the end users. They were the ones who had been so excited about this product since the day I told them in the Brown Women's lacrosse locker room. They were like my champions and the ones who would constantly tell me bad sticky bra stories and tell me how badly they needed this. And that they refuse to buy a sticky bra until Perkies comes out. And I made a promise to myself. I'm like, I don't care how freaking hard this is. I am getting this product in the hands of my best friends and my supporters from day one. That definitely is what kept me going. And then also I was able to learn a lot from my friends, and through spending time with them, I learned that nipple covers were an option and that a lot of women like nipple covers, which kind of led me to launch Perkies Petals, reusable nipple covers. Surrounding myself with my target demographic was motivating, but also gave me a lot of insights into what products I was creating and launching.
I love that, because even the start of Perkies and starting that idea in Danny Warshy's class back at Brown, that came from your friend Gab, right? I think it's so lovely that both potentially without Gab, this whole Perkies thing wouldn't be here.
So true.
And it's also like your friends just like motivating you. And I think that's so good that you have such a solid group of friends and you've been able to like lean on that and that they've been like so outwardly supportive. Recently, I saw Perkies Nips are available on Urban Outfitters. And I think that's such a dream for many people who have a retail brand, a fashion brand. How did that end up happening? And would you have any advice on finding sales channels or getting into places like Urban?
Hustle. Someone the other day was like, did you get a sales rep? You're getting into all these big stores. And I'm like, nope, I'm a hustler. I do a lot of LinkedIn cold messaging, or like if there's one mutual connection, I'll be like, hey, can you ever, a lot of the times that's a dead end, but DMing people on Instagram, connecting with everyone under the sun. No is not in my vocabulary. I say yes to every connection, every relationship, every conversation, every coffee date, because you do not know where those conversations will lead. Steve Jobs has a great quote about you never being able to connect the dots looking forward, but only looking backward. And looking backward, I'm like, oh my God, if I didn't go to that coffee meetup in LA right when I moved here, which I was debating going to because I just moved here and I had so much going on, I wouldn't have met this guy who connected me with this woman who has led to like all these amazing things. So I think saying yes to a lot of things and putting yourself out there is my number one piece of advice as an entrepreneur, and knowing that that is part of the job. But the urban connection was through a friend of mine who, again, friend in the network, who started a company called Robe Curls. Her name's Emily Kennison, and she launched on Urban, I want to say 6 to 12 months ago. And she connected me with the buyer back in like the spring. And I never heard back. And to be honest with you, I totally forgot that I remember reaching out to her, but like, I don't remember her connecting me. So a few months later, I reached out. This is so crazy. Persistence and perseverance is also number 2, or if not number 1. Like I keep tabs of what I do throughout the day and throughout the weeks and the months. And at the end of each month, I'll review it to see who I need to follow up with and what fell through and whatever I need to do.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my God, I never heard from the Urban team. Let me reach out to Emily. I don't think she made that intro yet. So I reached out to her. She's like, oh my God, totally forgot. Let me make that intro now. So she makes the intro to like the head guy. He had forgotten that she had reached out. He's like, I'm with the buying team now. I just pitched to them the idea. They're really into it. Have Rosie send us samples. So it was just like a pure definition of persistence and sometimes not taking no or no response for an answer. So anyway, he connected me with the buying team, and then they placed the order over the summer. And then we launched 2 weeks ago, and we just sold out a couple days ago of the light nude.
Let's go.
So I'm like, yeah, scream when that happened. So anyway, hopefully we're on the way to the Urban shelves.
Yeah, fingers crossed, because you're available on the website. So
yes,
everybody's
so
listening.
urbanoutfitters.com. Yes, check us out.
I would imagine that that's a whole like learning with, well, first of all, with reaching back out to your friend Emily, that definitely happens where sometimes you just have to not have an ego about reaching back out or make assumptions that it's a no, because like the worst thing that'll happen is you get rejected. But
twice. Exactly.
It's better to just reach out. Like I actually remember I was speaking to somebody that I'll be interviewing in a few weeks, and he didn't show up to our call. And it turns out he just got the schedule wrong in his mind, but I could have not called, but I called, and that's like another connection that I might not have made.
Crazy.
So I definitely love that. With the work that you do, I would imagine that a big part of it is meeting buyers and developing a network and thinking about your sales channels. What sales channels do you currently have, and what were some of the different learnings that you've had in breaking through and making progress in those different sales channels?
I'd say like the big 3, naturally, e-commerce, so perkies.com, Amazon, which we launched Perkies Petals on Amazon, and now starting these wholesale channels, including Shopbop, Urban, and then of course like smaller boutiques, but I'm focusing more so on like the bigger scale, larger orders. One thing I'm realizing is the beauty in working with a bigger retailer is they have the marketing dollars. You know, yes, they take typically like they mark up your product 2.5 times. So they're getting a cut of what you typically make if you were to sell it on your e-com website. But you're also piggybacking off their marketing dollars. So a friend of mine just sent me a screenshot of the Urban Outfitters promoting Perkies Nips to her. And I'm like, okay, yeah, that's not my marketing money.
So exciting.
I know. I was like, can you send me that? And then I got targeted like an hour later. But yeah, so like, I think that's important to know. And then the brand visibility that they're giving you. I mean, yes, online and then hopefully in store in the future, but that's just like traffic that's making your brand more visible. And not to mention, maybe they see it and start mentioning it to a friend, or they don't want to buy it right then and there. They can then go on your website later because they have your product name. It's interesting too, the onboarding process with retailers. Every retailer I've worked with has a different, or big retailer I've worked with has a completely different onboarding process. Some of them like take these like little hidden fees. Some of them don't. Some of them are like super accommodating. Some of them make you pay for shipping. Some of them have a strict deadline. Some of them are like, whenever you can get it to us. So that's been interesting. And like, I think when I onboard with a new retailer, that's when my brain is at its highest point of learning and doing. Like I'm doing, I don't even know how I wrap my head around it. Some people, typically teams that onboard with Urban have like a team of 30 people and 10 of those people are allocated to the onboarding process, but instead it's me doing it all alone.
Yeah.
But I'm just like, okay, this is the end goal. This is what I'm here for. This is why I wake up every morning and work on perkies to get into a store like Urban. So it's, I think the excitement that gets me through that onboarding process and like the SKUs and the shipping and all the labeling and stuff. So anyway, that's my spiel on retailers. And then Amazon's great. Again, I've learned so much through that. Reviews are essential, as we all know as Amazon consumers, how important reviews are. So
Definitely.
I'm trying to foster reviews in a legal way because Amazon like would flag you if they found like if I left a review on Perkies and they like saw my name associated with it, they could like shut down my whole account. So that's pretty interesting. But yeah, Amazon's great. And apparently there's a stat like 70% of online shoppers look for the product on Amazon first. So being on Amazon, especially as like a necessary essential product like nipple covers has been critical. And then also we're Prime eligible. So I send all of my products. I was shipping out an order this morning. I'll send like 100 units to Amazon and I'll put the SKU labels on it. Or it'll go to one place at first. And then I think from there, they like send it all around the US and then they're all Prime eligible. So as people order them, it's guaranteed 2-day shipping or 1-day shipping through Prime, which makes it more desirable as a consumer to buy it on Amazon. Yeah, and Amazon's also big on like how you do at first. So if at first you're converting pretty well, they'll organically bring your product towards the first or second page because people are buying it and it's converting. So like, let's say people type nipple covers and they end up buying Perkies and Amazon sees that, they're going to be like, great. If they make more money, we make more money.
Yeah.
So like there's like I think like a 60-day, I might totally be botching this number, a 60-day window where you really want to focus on getting your product through specific keywords so that it can organically bring you towards the front. And Danny Warshay has a great quote, the professor from Brown, is branding reduces searching costs. And it's so true. And on Amazon, we have a really low total advertising cost of spend, which basically means people are like organically finding me on Amazon by searching in Perky's Petals. So that's so just been like, the proof is in the pudding. Branding's everything. The name, I think, is pretty good. So that's been great. And then, we just launched on Amazon in the UK. So this is fascinating. I wanted to launch in the UK. Obviously, the process for VAT registration is not easy, but I did it. But I wanted to make sure there was a market there before I went through the process of, paying all this money for VAT registration and monthly fees and shipping fees. And through that search, I found that I don't think maybe there's one or two, but there really are not many nipple cover brands selling on Amazon in the UK that sell more than the light nude shade. And we have light, medium, and dark. And a lot of our orders coming from the UK are of the medium and darker shades. And and then we just launched on Australia. I have to get my account approved. Something's off right now. But we'll be live on Australia hopefully by end of day. And same thing there. Like light nude shades only when you type in nipple covers for Amazon.au. So, finding that gap in the market's critical. And then also the good thing about Australia is they're reverse seasons as us. So when things slow down for nipple cover purchases in the winter in the US, they start heating up in Australia. And then online on perkies.com, a lot of it's just like email marketing. And I don't have a crazy budget I try to be really strategic about how I invest in marketing. TikTok Shop has been pretty good. And that's been fun to kind of be on the forefront of because there's so many hoops you have to jump through to sell through TikTok Shop. And for whatever reason, we were approved early on. And like the day we were approved, we had one woman see Perky's Petals and she did 1-minute video completely in Spanish talking about how our petals are better than other brands. And it went viral and I had like
Oh my
100 sales in
God.
2 days. It was
So
crazy.
exciting.
And I was in New York and my poor roommate was in LA and I was like, Jamie, can you please FaceTime me? I need you to send out all these orders. So anyway, but it's been really cool to be on like the forefront of this TikTok shop and the virality of it and the organic approach to marketing more so than like the paid ads, the Google ads, the this and that, which like are way too expensive because it's so competitive, especially for the demographic that we target.
About that gap in the market with light shades of the nipple covers being available, but not the medium and dark shades. It just goes to show that diversity in business is just good business. And I think it's really cool that you were able
100%.
to just see that. And for you, I think from the very beginning, in 2018, it was very obvious that you were going to offer different shades of the sticky bra as well. It's crazy for me to realize that that was a case, that it was so like not really available, but I love that that's something that you're able to fill in the UK and fingers crossed soon the Australia markets. You mentioned that different big retailers do business differently, and I would think that there's some learnings and negotiation that you've had. You mentioned that with the onboarding process, people usually have a multi-person team to do that work. But have you had any learnings or mistakes or things regarding negotiation? And what have been some things that you've taken away from your experience at Perky so far?
Thank you for reminding me that everything could be negotiated. But I also feel like, or this is what one of my investors / advisors told me, and she actually went to Brown. She kind of alluded to early on with a retailer, be as accommodating to them as possible because they kind of have your fate in their hands. They could at one, never mind, we don't want to work with you. And then there goes like your biggest account you'll ever get. So I think it's kind of like, okay, prove that you're a good seller. And then, from there, negotiate. But I do think there is something to be said about being accommodating just to start. Then they realize how badly they need you. And then you could start the negotiating.
That definitely makes sense, especially because in retail, there's just so many amazing brands. I think it definitely makes sense to be accommodating and know like what timeline of a game you're playing. You're playing a long-term strategy. So it definitely makes sense that, especially with working with a big retailer like Urban, just being associated with Urban is like good enough.
And another note, just on that note, margins are critical. And I remember probably again was Danny, but like margins can make or break your business. Right now, the sticky bras aren't exactly where I need them to be margin wise. So I'm kind of leaning more into the pedals and the nips with better margins, easier to produce, easier to manufacture, easier to scale. And because of those margins, I'm able to have so much wiggle room amongst retailers. And I probably shouldn't be saying this on a podcast, but it does give you that flexibility where if you're only working within, a specific percentage of margin, then you don't have that flexibility where, when you do have that bigger margin, you have a little bit more flexibility and wiggle room.
Yeah. And I think that sometimes you're talking about margins and the importance of margins. I think there's sometimes great ideas. And then there's also like, you have to balance that with, does this make business sense? So I can definitely imagine that if you have a product suite, even if all of them are really interesting and provide great value to clients, the one with the higher margin is the one you strategically focus on, because that's going to be what is the biggest bang for the amount of time you put in. The idea of the nips, I think, is fantastic. And personally, I don't know if I've seen anything like that before. Could you tell me about how you got the idea for nips?
It was spring of 2022. My mom and I were watching the Met Gala, and my mom and I are like big fangirls of Hailey Bieber. And then she came out in this gorgeous white silk dress, and her nipples were prominently showing through her dress. And my mom and I looked to each other. And my mom also is like always thinking of like good ideas. We're always we're a big problem solver family. And we like look at each other and we're like, A, she looks amazing, always. And B, we're like, oh my God, like that's now a look. And it is a look. And I remember the next day I was in New York City walking around, and I swear every single woman I walked by was wearing like a tank top with their nipples like prominently showing through their top. I was like, oh my God, it's a trend. So I thought, I mean, meanwhile, like most people who have a nipple cover company would have a heart attack when Hailey Bieber is wearing her nips out. Like that's totally the antithesis of what we do. But I'm like, if you can't beat them, join them. So like the next day I reached out to my intern from RISD, Shuan, and I was like, hey, Shu, do you mind making a 3D rendering of a fake nipple? So I sent over the prominence and the width and, my vision for what this nipple would look like, which is basically a nipple on like a nipple cover, like an emulation of a nipple on a nipple cover. And he sent me the rendering, and I reached out to my nipple cover manufacturer. It's like, hey, can we open up a mold? And I asked for like 100 units to start, and they said yes, because I paid for the mold, and it was like a trial run. And we did the 3 shades, and I started giving them to people. I started wearing them, and I was like, oh baby, this is it. Yeah. Ever since, we've just been promoting them, and outside of it being a pop culture trend, in that moment when I was like, oh my God, this is a thing, I immediately thought of the breast cancer community. Since early 2022, Perkies has been a partner of the Breast Cancer Research Foundation, BCRF. And instead of writing a check at the end of each month, I was like, there has to be a tie-in. Like we were creating like nipple covers that like are on women's breasts. Like there has to be something we could do with the breast cancer community outside of, writing a check to them. So instead of just doing that, I would reach out to survivors and previvors and women who are active on TikTok and Instagram, and would listen to Instagram lives and would get on phone calls with these women and learn about their experiences and their needs and their wants. And through that process, I learned that a lot of women post mastectomy. And for those listening, mastectomy is when a woman gets her breasts removed. It could be a double mastectomy or a single mastectomy. There's a lot of unevenness and scarring. So that's kind of where the nipple covers can play a role, because it can help smooth things out. But essentially, women get their breasts removed, which is one surgery. Then they get the reconstructive surgery, which is surgery number 2. A lot of women can't or don't opt for surgery number 3, which is then the nipple reconstructive surgery. And that's, again, where we come in. And it's a non-permanent option. It could be a intermediate option for the woman, or it could just be an option for them to wear and feel that sense of having a nipple. Another option is permanent tattoos, but a lot of women don't want to get permanent tattoos. And upon launching this, we actually just launched on a company called Ana Ono earlier this month, and it's a mastectomy bra company. And the feedback and thoughtful responses I've gotten for our product has been the most moving part of this entire business startup journey. What some women are saying, it's fake, but it's made me feel whole again. You've renewed my sense of sexuality. You've given me back a piece of myself. You've given me my femininity back. And to give women options, you're empowering them. There's like a complete direct correlation. And when women are like stripped from their breasts and stripped from their nipples, and they are given 2 options, either a permanently hard nipple or no nipple, to give that third option is a really special thing to give. The nips are double pronged, no pun intended. For the pop culture trend, people like me who want the free the nip look, who don't have like perfectly perky nips all the time. And then for women who have breast cancer, and it gives them that sense of self and that sense of confidence. Clearly my favorite product.
I love that once you saw Hailey Bieber, you took action the next day, and then it's grown and you've been able to touch women in a way that maybe you didn't expect the day that you got the idea. And I think that's such like a beautiful thing. And I love that you've been open to creating new products and evolving the business in different ways. But then once it's out in the real world, there's another whole layer of what does it mean to people and how do they use your products. So I think that's just such an incredible story. And it just ties so well back to the fact that from the very beginning, you had a partnership with the Breast Cancer Research Foundation. And so it's just this nice, really like full circle moment again as well. Right now, what is the most important challenge or thing that you're focused on regarding perkies?
I would say growth is kind of, I'm at this inflection point where I'm like, okay, now how do we bring it to the next level? And I mean, every day it's like, keep my head above water. I'm treading water. But at the end of the day, I'm a one woman show. And as I grow, it's almost kind of like a catch-22. Like, I need money right now to help me grow so I could bring on someone else and bring on a new hire and like really hit the ground running and grow. But I need like a few more proof points and validation points to raise that money at the valuation that I deem Perky's worthy of. Hopefully we'll get into urban stores and maybe a few other big retailers. And I think from there, I'll be able to raise some more money, get a better idea on our marketing plans, and then, ideally bring someone on, if not full-time, part-time, and be able to divide and conquer, because it's definitely challenging doing it.
I mean, it's crazy. Yeah.
Throwing in like a bunch of weddings and my social life. And it's just, I also look at it as I'm young, I'm capable, I'm healthy, I don't have kids, I don't have a husband, I don't even have a boyfriend. So I'm able to like fully go all in on this. And I'm taking advantage of this like golden period of my life to give it all to Perkies with the knowledge that it's not always going to be like this. Here for the ride.
How do you keep your mind strong? Do you focus a lot on working out, making sure you have certain working hours? Like, what are certain habits or things that you do to like keep that like mentality there and mindset strong?
Yes, I am an athlete. So I do try to work out every day. Sometimes it's 30-minute yoga, Peloton. Sometimes it's just a walk on the beach. I'm like a 10-minute walk to the beach, which is amazing.
So nice.
But I think it's super important to like take care of your physical health. And then I always say, like, as a one woman show or as a founder, like the company lives and dies by me. And if I'm not taking care of myself, the company's not being taken care of. So I'm big on working out. I'm big on eating healthy, and I'm big on sleep. I think getting my 9 hours a night is critical. And then also like having a life outside of Perkies. And that's what keeps me sharp. Also, I'm constantly learning through my social life and through dinners with girlfriends and through beach walks with my sister. I'm learning what their needs are and being able to incorporate that into the business. So like, as much as that's like a non-business part, it totally ties back into the business. And since moving out to LA, there are a ton of networking opportunities. So I find myself out and about way more often than just like sitting on my computer inside. And I think striking that balance is important as an entrepreneur. Yes, there are the days where you just need to like sit on your computer and bang out work, but then the magic happens off your computer and meeting people and meeting business owners and people who have those connections to the urbans of the world. I recently so it's probably a meme, but it was about like, get off your computer, the magic happens outside. And it's so true. So saying yes to like work dinners and events. And yeah, the west side of LA is definitely big on events. I could probably go to 5 a week if I chose to. And then also, just not letting the lowest of lows get you too down and not letting the highest of highs get you too high. Just knowing that it's a roller coaster and bad days are followed by great days and the best days could be followed by not so great days. And just knowing that, it's a journey. And it's about the journey. It's not about the destination. I know it's cliche, but it's true.
Cliche, those things, they're cliche because they're real, but you don't understand that they're real until you live through them. You talked about don't get too down by the low lows. Don't get too high when things are going really great. I feel like people have said that, but working on this podcast, like when you're working on your own thing, you just get really riled up. And sometimes you're in bed, you're like, oh my God, I'm excited about this. Like I want to do it now. And then afterwards you feel so tired if you go on that high of being celebratory and super excited about something. Do you think you've just gotten used to some of the highs and the lows and it's like part of your process or?
Totally.
Yeah.
I honestly think I'm like numb to it. I'm like, okay, knowledge is power. And like by living it for 5 years now, it's just like, okay, this is normal.
You're like always you're learning or meeting new people, like making those connections. It's really cool and like growing, but I guess still try to be a little bit unattached to like the outcome and keep on going, keep on growing and changing
Ego,
and all that.
Pride aside, ego aside. Yeah. And again, that comes from doing it for so many years and like not caring what other people think about you.
What advice would you have given yourself when you were getting started back in 2018, looking back now?
I would say embracing the pivots and embracing the change and like knowing that idea number one might not be the end all be all. There's better things in the pipeline, you know, being open to change, but also highlighting what I just talked about is pride aside. Like, being yourself and being authentic to the brand and not caring what other people think is essential as an entrepreneur. You can't go in it with ego. You'll be let down too early on, and understanding that failure is part of the process. I played lacrosse at Brown, and I correlate a ton of what I've learned from Division I sports to being an entrepreneur. And I stuck out 4 full years of varsity lacrosse without quitting and it's like with a good head on my shoulders, despite not winning that many games, not getting playing time, and understanding that like getting wins and getting playing time isn't what it's about. It's about the people you meet along the way and the journey. And that's like completely correlated to my experience with Perkies.
Just going with the grind and grinding and not being so fixated on those things that are like big on ego. You've always like had just kind of like a radiant vibe and you have a lot of energy. So I think maybe having that mentality has helped you kind of get over it and just enjoy the whole
I don't know, like
process.
I don't know if that's genes or nature or nurture or my parents. I don't know what. I'm very like radiant rose colored glasses. Look how nice. And it's really helpful to have.
Yeah, definitely. Otherwise it's just dark, you know? Rosie, where can we find you? Where can the audience find Perkies products and how can we help you?
Yes. Well, as you know, we're obviously on Urban. Perkies.com is our website. My Perkies is our Instagram, and Perkies is spelled Perkies. Ways in which listeners can help me are getting me introduced to buyers of stores like Urban and just spreading the word about Perkies.
Cool. Rosie, thank you so much. I really appreciate your time.
Thank you so much for having me.